Well, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. And thank you for joining us today for our presentation. This is the Adobe Target Personalization Maturity Series, Art of the Possible webinar. And we are so glad to have you with us. And now I'd like to hand the call over to our highly regarded speaker, Brent Kostak, who is our Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Adobe. Hello, Brent. The stage is now yours.
Thank you so much, Emily. As Drew mentioned to the audience today, thank you everyone for participating in the personalization strategy poll here. It's great to see that there's a lot of interest with personalization, and seeing the 55% beginner, 43%, and 2%. I think that 2% is going to jump up by the end of the presentation for plans to scale out maturity here. So Drew mentioned this at the beginning of the call as well, but for those just joining, this is a webinar series for Adobe Target for maturing personalization. This is the first of 3. So if you aren't registered for the next 2, we'll include some links and make sure that everyone has access to the following sessions, one in February and one in March. But thank you very much for attending today. Drew and I have a lot of great content to share. And as we build out the series, you'll see today's top focuses is use cases, art of the possible, how customers are really advancing their personalization programs. We're going to hit on a really great agenda covering a number of topics. Part 2 really gets into high performance recommendations, some of the more algorithmic personalization activities that you can get into with Adobe Target. And then the final one, really unlocking AI, how you can build AI into your personalization program, what you can do with Adobe Target to advance. And there's going to be a lot of great content that talks about Target plus a lot of our platform activities and integrations that you can get within your Adobe tech stack. So the agenda today, we're going to be talking about tools and capabilities, getting into capabilities of Target, really how you're scaling your personalization program with the tool itself. Drew's going to cover off a lot of use cases, top use cases that we see across industries with our customers, really evangelizing some of these more mature playbook, if you will, for personalization. Going to get into machine learning and AI. There's a ton of good context, I think, in discussions right now around artificial intelligence. Adobe's a lead within AI and Gen AI. There's a lot to cover within how you're getting to those specific goals of your optimization metrics using Target. A lot of organizational readiness and how we're building out this across business units, across different teams. There's a lot of a ton of great content that you can think of when you're thinking about building out your personalization program when it comes to the people, the resources at your organization. And then we're going to end with the Q&A. So getting into it, kicking off here, one of the reports that we have really driving in terms of what we're seeing in the market here with regards to personalization is the fact that it's evolved over the course of a number of years, right? And you think about the evolution of personalization based off ways that you can start to segment your different audiences, how you're targeting certain customers or other brands with your resources that you have within the capability set. This report here really dove into a lot of the ways that you can see the segmentation building out from a static experience going into this one-to-one personalization metrics. So this report done with Incisive with Adobe, it talked about the ways that organizations are actually failing to scale and where you can see the progressions here. One of the aspects of this is really about experimentation and the foundation that you have for the course of building off of the A/B testing that you might be doing or the experimentation foundation that you might be doing into moment interactions to drive those advanced segmentation models or targeting audiences to your experiences. This report drove 10x in terms of improvement on conversions. A lot of customers saw average order values increasing, as well as your revenue per visitor. So these metrics across this report for these customers was when we saw these advanced customers mature with their personalization, get past experimentation, and start to build in a lot of AI and machine learning models into this one-to-one scale for your segmentation. So this evolution of personalization is very important. I think it brings in a lot of the points to the Capabilities here for personalization. One of these really important aspects here to think about came from a Deloitte Digital report as well. Talked about the next generation of personalization and where we're seeing a lot of customers excel with customer loyalty, personalization driving the effects and the benefits to your organization. This is exactly where a lot of our customers are coming to us, looking for thought leadership, asking, what's the value that they're seeing in terms of growing their personalization programs, right? One key aspect here I thought was interesting as well is specifically within the B2C space, more likely than not, a lot of the executives and the personalization leads, there might be a thought about what good experimentation and personalization looks like, and making sure that the personalization, according to some of their consumers and what the reports are saying from these customers of theirs, is aligned in terms of providing really enhanced and a great personalized experience. So organizations leaning into a bit more, likely to say that they're driving great personalization, but what does that actually mean? What does that look like in the stats? Customers right now are looking at brands and wanting to have this human interaction. We have a lot more channels that we're engaging our consumers and brands are building these relationships with. So what does that look like? And again, it drives back to the point that personalization is really accelerating some of these next generation level business growth models. The challenges with this, and Adobe talks a lot about personalization at scale, is the three foundations and the capabilities that you can see here, right? Data, content, and journeys. And I know for those folks that are on the call, the customers of Adobe Target, very familiar with these three pillars. But if you break these down, what does it look like, right? Capabilities of data, building a foundation, understanding where you can centralize a lot of these behaviors across your consumers, engaging with these interaction points across your experiences, whether it be websites, mobile apps, IoT devices, struggling with this data silo breakdown across these different channels and having one centralized profile for each individual is really an important aspect as you grow your personalization program. What does that look like? What does that mean? We'll get into a few more details throughout the call on best practices here. But I think the main point in terms of data breakdown is the fact that when you have this centralized data, every interaction that you have when you're optimizing across these customer experiences is driving more value to these models. It's picking up those behaviors that you might be seeing in terms of other channels. It's catching all of the interaction points from a customer-centric viewpoint that your brand or company might not be tracking in terms of every interaction point from the data set. So having a solid holistic view of your data is critical. Content, we talk about content supply chain at Adobe, personalizing experiences on the fly. So, a point here, what's the point of having 30 microsegments broken down if you don't have great content and distinct messaging across each of those journeys and those interaction points that you'll be able to serve? So content at scale is absolutely something that brands are struggling with. The content velocity is something that we hear frequently from customers in terms of, we have a lean content and marketing team. Our optimization, our data science teams are working closely with marketing. How do we advance and solve this challenge for being able to not just drive a lot of experimentation, but personalize each individual point of our customer journeys that we're building out? The third here is journeys. And this is going to be a core theme that you'll see throughout some of the content this year as well at Adobe, is orchestrating experiences in the customer journey context. So with Target, being able to optimize each interaction points across web and mobile, understanding some of these past behaviors and really driving these experience leaders. A lot of the challenges that you're seeing within consistency across channels or optimizing these metrics to impact the overall omnichannel approach for customer journey management, something that you can activate and take advantage of with Target in the context to these customer touch points. Establishing goals and benchmarks. This is absolutely something that when you're aligning your business goals that we're seeing, as a key focus for Adobe Target, as well as where our teams are focusing and leaning into. And in a lot of the use cases that we'll walk through today, you can start to see and get a better understanding of where some of these benchmarks and these KPIs align to, whether it be conversion-based optimization metrics in Adobe Target's activities or revenue-based. There's a lot of ways that you can gain value and see this growth within some of your investments within the tool. So operational and organizational efficiencies. We're going to go through best practices to draw out some of the creative ways that you can draw some of these advanced capabilities with Target back to cost savings, back to customer service use cases, and really personalize each individual aspect of that customer journey. Value insights, really getting into what audience segments you are building out, where are you seeing certain behaviors, and why you're targeting certain experiences to those segments. And then, of course, an opportunity cost in terms of failing fast. This is something that we talk about in experimentation a lot, but do you have a good grip within your analytics and your insights on where not to deploy a certain experience or experiment because of the loss or benefit of some of their products and services? Being able to build off of those experimentation insights to understand what to personalize where and how to draw those experimentation best practices for your personalization growth. So again, all of the benchmarks and goals are aligned to a very dynamic personalization strategy at scale. And I think this is also an area for maturity evolution where you'll see brands start to understand these touch points across the customer journey, right? So maturing your personalization testing, looking at certain locations, understanding the reasons where to start to personalize and drive some incentives across your segments based off of some of the behaviors that we talked about, customer profile data impacting some of these activities, as well as the unifying customer data across individual profile segments to one centralized view. So Target's really good at understanding the behavioral changes, some of these contextual based interaction points, and then driving and infusing that across your customer journey. And finally, when you're looking at maturity in terms of strategy, KPIs, alignment, we talked about this a little bit on the last slide here, but building the Target integrations into the content velocity, Adobe Experience Manager, there's a lot of ways that you can think about reusable content fragments in your activities for targeting. That's something that a lot of our customers see a lot of benefits from by taking some of the content fragments and experience fragments from Adobe Experience Manager and your content management program into these mature areas of data science optimization with Target. And this is supporting across the entire customer journey. So again, experiences across a standardized schema, looking at ways to standardize some of these practices and really mature your dynamic personalization strategy. In terms of capabilities, Target is your one-stop shop for experimentation and personalization. Adobe-powered Sensei activities is what we really are referring to when we talk about automation and AI in terms of personalization. So within Target, your manual rules-based experimentation A/B test, significant number of customers, really adopted and mature within their experimentation practice. And we're looking at progressing this in terms of automated personalization on all Target. So showing the right experiences to each individual visitor based off of the contextual interactions, the customer loyalty programs that they might be involved with, some of the recent cross-channel moments of purchase, or even a authenticated site that you might get a lot of data being put into some of these algorithms for automating some of those content fragments or personalization activities. And then recommendations, we have a significant number of customers that are doing some really creative and advanced ways of driving product and content recommendations. And it really grows and impacts what they're doing from a campaign or customer journey perspective. It increases engagement, and it's specific to those personas that you're personalizing to based off those product and content recommendations. So I'm going to turn it over to Drew to walk through some of the art of the possible use cases that we're seeing with customers of Adobe Target.
Thank you so much, Brent. So great to see that poll. Thank you for filling that out. A lot of folks just getting started, beginners or somewhat mature. So you probably, as Brent was mentioning, focusing on testing and maybe rules-based targeting in high-value locations. What is that landing experience, right? And Target is collecting, as Brent mentioned, contextual data. Where is somebody clicking through from? Was it an ad off-site? And you can mirror that when they get to the site so that they're not searching for a product or an offer, maybe a sale that they saw, or some program that they want to sign up for, or a service that they want to sign up for in a B2B space. So we can begin personalization at first touch. Let me say that again. Anonymous data. We've got a lot of basic data, what device you're on, geolocation. You might have different offers based on different regions or proximity to an actual physical location where there's a sale or there's specific products or there's specific services that are just for a specific region. Then what are they clicking through from? And then as they begin to browse that site, right, you can be targeting them based on category affinity. We score propensity in the target profile based on where someone is spending time on the site. So there's beginning targeting, there's beginning recommendations that can be personalized based on that base data. And then Brent was talking about, as we get more mature, we were able to bring in data and augment the target profile. So there's a batch profile upload API with a lot of companies in many different industries, retail, financial services, media and publishing, high tech, B2B, who are bringing in batch profile first-party data that they have from interactions across other channels, unifying it into Target to take action across a session when someone authenticates, and then across multiple sessions because we persist that data and that profile. There's also real-time CDP and any CDP. Target can be a destination for that as well, and high-value segments you can build or even share in through analytics or real-time CDP. So a lot of chances to augment data, to build data, and then progressively personalize as we move through. And we're going to talk about this capability set that Brent showed, beginning with the basics. You can and should, with your organization or smaller teams, go in and do what we like to call a site roast or an app roast. There is no website out there, even when you're very mature, that doesn't have improvements. And this is a constantly changing and dynamic environment. We are replatforming, redesigning. Perfect time to be experimenting or using personalization, our algorithms, to decide what to show, new experiences, and cycling out, as Brent was saying, opportunity costs. Cycle out those experiences that are not resonating, either overall or to specific segments. This is how we can begin to be looking at analytics and meeting with the analytics team and getting those insights on what are high value segments, what are the preferences that they have for experiences. Are they more sale driven? Are they more category driven? And then we can get more fine tuned using AI powered activities where we're looking at that broader profile. We're surfacing up attributes that are high propensity. Maybe we're doing propensity scoring that we're bringing in. All of this can be useful to then look at the experience like here and say, with Target, we're validating everyday assumptions. We make a lot of decisions on what to be shown, right? What goes here and why, and what, who or what decides. We should let the customer decide. We want to continue to show this visitor what is most relevant, reduce those clicks, increase those conversions. And it's not just content here. The navigation can sometimes be a really frustrating experience. We know this, right? It's usually a drop down with a myriad of different selections. It can be very cumbersome. There are many companies out there that are personalizing the navigation. One computer software company was creating a visual and category affinity driven personalized navigation where every time you came back, it would help you prioritize those areas of the site, that product catalog that you most likely want to engage in. So we should be looking at all aspects of this, both the creative, what it's saying, the navigation, and how easy is it to use? How can it help me get to where I want to go or where I want to go next? And we're going to go into use cases in depth. But as you're doing this, this is the litmus test. First of all, take a note from the page of Apple, where when they redesigned, platformed their site years ago, they went for less is more, and I totally agree. Space is a commodity here. We don't want to overuse or overspeak at any given point, and so testing and also automated personalization can help you weed out what is not necessary in a location. And I'll show you some examples of where someone removed the entire navigation, in fact. Sometimes less is more, and directing somebody, such as the experience you get on Adobe.com, that lobby experience based on your current investment and what you like to play around with on the site. Do you like the Photoshop tutorials? Are you a Creative Cloud, customer? So real estate, does it belong here? And what's the size? How much prominence should it have? And I think a good litmus test is if you're personalizing, it should have more prominence. If you're doing recommendations, and it's maybe most popular when someone first comes to a site, and then as they're browsing, you're getting a sense for what do they like to engage with? What kind of content do they want to see more of and consume more of? What kind of products do they want to engage with? Bring that real estate up. Bring up those recommendations higher up on the page. Don't be scared to redesign or move things around on the page based on what's being personalized. Put what's most relevant up front, up top, above the fold. Let's get it right there. We shouldn't be scared to, as Brent was talking about, expand into mobile app. We know that mobile app can be a huge customer loyalty tool. And if we're downloading, we look at financial services customers, we're downloading the app, you guessed it, to check our balance, make sure our money's still there, right? But there's things that you can do on the app now. Pay bills. You can deposit checks. Maybe for greater utility, greater adoption of the app, you should be personalizing promotion of those value-added services through the app. Better customer satisfaction, better app adoption. If you're able to make that suggestion, personalization takes on that role in the authenticated space, in the customer space of value-added service. We're respecting the customer. We want to give them more of what they're looking for. We want them to associate our brand with something that is like a concierge service. Same is true for travel and hospitality. We might download a mobile app for an airline to get our boarding pass. We've all done that. But there's value-added services there within the app, upgrades and to seating, or sometimes they'll even help you find services there in the airport that you're in. So this is to say, it's good to look at the experience. And Brent was talking about journeys, thinking about it across channel, and where can we bring in personalization to help guide, to nurture a visitor to a loyal customer, and provide value-added services as we move down. So it's not just location, it's what does it look like? It can sometimes change in an image from a family-oriented image to maybe just, a couple or a pastoral scene. That can have a huge impact. It's just, what does someone want to see? How is it being presented? Does it function correctly? I sat down with one travel and hospitality company. The call to action was way up on the page. Another one in manufacturing, same thing. They wanted to point you to where you could purchase the actual product in store, but you couldn't find that call to action. You didn't even know it was a button. And so that presentation of how that functionality is presented, how does it work? Does it function correctly? Maybe if you have a card on your site, you should reduce the steps, or it should autofill. These are all things that you can experiment with. And then finally, messaging. And should it be different messaging for different audiences? Or it can be more dynamic. Using token replace, you can bring in elements of the profile of an individual, maybe their city, maybe their status in a rewards program, maybe how close they are to a renewal. All of these things can be respectful personalization customizations that drive someone to click through and want to learn more. So here's an obvious one. Let's start with some of the beginning use cases. If we're coming to a site and we're all set to sign up for a program, here's a telco customer. We have specific segments, people that are, let's say, AAA members, or they're part of a union, or they're part of a company, and they have a special offer for signing up for service on their mobile phone. Obviously, targeting them can be very significant when we do this in terms of click-through and ultimately high impact on sales. A telco company just added recommendations based on the device someone was on coming to the site, reduced the number of clicks to 8 to 1, obviously, because they were clicking through to a device that they, similar to what they already had, and they were upgrading. and a 15% increase in orders. Now, this can be sped up. This sort of testing or even targeting of different experiences by adding automation in your A/B test. We almost thought about this as potentially a default in the product. Auto allocate is a multi-arm bandit. So what it does is it's about finding the winner. If you can be A/B testing different experiences that you might show in a given location, but sometimes you have multiple different creatives, let's say, or it's a sale and you have different versions of what you're messaging about that sale. It's in a time-sensitive block here. We're running a sale, or maybe it's over a sporting event, special offer for a credit card related to, an NFL team during a major game, let's say. And you can use auto allocate. It will require less traffic. It will find the winner faster. So this is good in terms of, we talked about creative efficiencies. Your creative team is making multiple variations. Sometimes they're taking risks. You want to be bold sometimes in how you're engaging people. People are distracted. You want to get your marketing just right. Auto allocate can be a good way, is just to put it in. If it is resonating, it will begin to be shown to more of the audience. So the algorithm dynamically pushes traffic to the winning variation, decreases traffic going to the other variations. So manual A/B testing, if we're just getting started, that's where you're stepping back and you're testing different variations and you're filtering by segments and looking at which segment prefers which experience. A might work for one, C might work for another one. So there's a lot you can get out of a manual A/B test. Not saying to remove that, but we're saying when oftentimes you're just looking for the winner, this is the way to do it. It requires less traffic, higher conversion, and you can be much more dynamic in your creative. Now, this is where you know the segments, right? Think of the first example where we're showing segment a specific offer. In this case, we're finding the winner. We're accelerating that based on a specific segment of the entire population. But there's a lot of anonymous traffic. We don't know everything about everyone and all of our data. And we also, I talked about best practices, sitting down with the analytics team and understanding the high value segments that they're seeing and tracking. But in a lot of cases, it's a lot of anonymous traffic. Well, personalization can happen here as well. Take that anonymous traffic, put it into automated personalization. There might be a handful of more generic, but potentially personalized offers that you could show at a given point that aren't directly related to the data that you've collected for anonymous traffic. This is a great way to explore and exploit. Automated personalization and auto target uses a random forest ensemble set of algorithms. So on its own, if you just leave it alone, default, it will look at all of the data of each individual profile. And at every visit, it will surface up what's most predictive, what it's learned is most predictive in that individual's profile, and deliver the next best experience to drive that conversion goal that you've set. Again, looks at all the data. It also looks at all the segments you've created. It scores all of that for each individual at each visit, because their profile will change. It surfaces up what's most predictive, delivers the next best experience for driving conversion. So they saw 13% lift above the targeting that they were doing with anonymous traffic. So this is what I mean. We can take advantage of this group that we before couldn't. And it's going to surface up. These activities have insights reports that will show you all of the attributes, all of the segments that are most predictive. Super, super valuable. Now, automated personalization also ranks the order. So it doesn't just deliver a single experience, it can. But if you want to rank order that experience, let's look at the left side here, a financial services customer. They have several different potential banners that they could show related to setting up an account or getting a credit card, maybe refinancing your mortgage. It will surface up and rank the order so that that banner is higher up, especially in a smaller screen size like the mobile site or the mobile app. Great tactic here. Again, we were talking about reordering the page and not being scared to reorder the page. For each individual, some are going to be more likely to want to invest in an initial account or additional account. Others pre-qualified for an amazing credit card offer. So really valuable in terms of rank order. You can also do this with navigation, one of my favorite topics, right? Nav icons. We were talking about expanding adoption and use of the mobile app. Think about this on the site. Think about this in the app. How do we get them to do that next thing or adopt that next feature? This is a drugstore chain. Maybe I'm getting my prescriptions, but I can also do my photos there now. Or maybe the flu shot or another shot is the right thing to schedule here in the app. It creates greater adoption, greater customer satisfaction, and greater conversion. And then any slots, you can pick multiple slots using those random forest ensemble set of algorithms and auto target. It'll evaluate each individual's profile and deliver one or a couple of different banners, offers, creative that is just right for them. Now, we also have added the feature to customize the evaluation of the data. So sometimes you don't want all this noise. We don't want to limit it too much because it is exploring and exploiting, and it will allow you to discard data maybe that is not worth bringing in on a regular basis and augmenting the profile, right? But sometimes we want to say, just look at propensity scores in this activity, AI-powered personalization, and deliver based on that, and then show me the scores of all of that in the insights reports. So we want to reduce the noise. We want to take out irrelevant attributes or data that's not valuable. You can customize these activities. So there's a lot of customization that you can get. Here's another example. This one's with recommendations. And also we expanded the example for automated personalization and auto target. So think about creating a completely dynamic page like the lobby experience at Adobe.com, right? This manufacturing, it's a B2C as well as B2B manufacturing, a home improvement company. They tested to remove their navigation. Well, not remove it, but hide it, which is a bold move. We think the navigation, that's sacred. Don't touch that. But you can. And actually, when they did that, they saw that there was no appreciable impact to conversion. Wow. Hiding that actually gave us more space, right? Instead, they replaced it with recommendations in the middle there. If you look at the right side, they used recommendations and category affinity. Remember category affinity? From the target profile, that contextual data. It scores where I spend most time on the site. So it will recommend categories or areas of the site, product sets that I most want to get back to. So it's personalized navigation. I don't get lost in the experience. I don't click through from a specific offer and then find trouble through the navigation or give up or get distracted. It's right there. Then they also took more generalized recommendations for products, specific products, and used recommended for you. This is an algorithm that we have that's profile based. Again, you can customize it, and we'll go into that in our recommendation section. But it will show specific products that you are interested in. Now, the profile will either be me and my session, my browsing information, right? Or it could be the company that I come from if I've authenticated, and that persists with the profile. So you not only are basing these recommendations, both the category affinity as well as the products, based on my browsing information, but also maybe what my company buys on a regular basis, especially if I'm accessing through the customer server. You can recognize firmographic data. They're from Adobe. They buy these products regularly, so show them these products. And then at the top there, the banner can be token replaced. As I mentioned, it can take that firmographic data, welcome Adobe, or welcome any company. And we could use automated personalization to show or rank the right offers based on the products that I normally buy, both from an Adobe perspective as well as my browsing history. So this can, at every visit, based on my profile, deliver a dynamic, personalized experience every time. This is not just a product page. This can be, a home page. This can be a product page. This can be areas of around registration or around that point of sale. And the numbers say it all. Massive lift in terms of percentage of click-through and conversions related to those recommendations activities, as well as the testing and AI-powered personalization. And just adding personalizations in many cases. I remember there was a retailer who just adding recommendations to their site gave them a 6% lift in conversion. Just adding the algorithm generically. It's if this, then that, right? Collaborative filtering. Then when they would personalize it based on the information they had on an individual, it gave them 3% higher lift in conversion. On a retail site, it can be 3 to 5% conversion rate on a regular basis. This can be huge. And as Brent was talking about, we've got to be looking at all of these conversion goals, revenue, and ascribing, evangelizing the learnings that we have, the impact we're driving. Then when we go back and we're asking stakeholders throughout the organization, subject matter experts, what ideas should we be doing? What activities should we be running? Where should we improve the experience for a key segment? They'll be thinking about, oh, we can drive such impact. I mean, this is a career-making product. This is something that can and gets excitement around the organization because it has real performance impact based on your business goals, real revenue impact. Recommendations should not just be thought of as additional suggestions. We talked about it being used for navigation, right? Here's another example. Let's say, as we all do, I'm looking at a site during my lunch break. Maybe it's a travel package I'm looking at. And I get distracted. I want to, when I get home, get back to it on my laptop. I want to share it, with my family and consider this. Imagine if you front promoted where I left off that package and then showed me other amenities related to that package I was looking at, or additional packages that are similar, areas I might want to go to. Think of recommendations as a bookmark in the experience. And we have that slot level control. NVIDIA talked about it at the last summit, where they've created an amazing dynamic experience on their homepage based on the tiles that you click on their site. I mean, they're an amazing world-class technology company that creates technology, not just for gaming, but also that saves lives for healthcare providers. And their navigation's completely dynamic and slot level control with multiple recommendations algorithms. So every time it will dynamically sort tiles and get you back to what you were looking at. So think about that. Front promoting where I left off. Maybe it was an article, and then show me additional articles. These are personalization, powerful personalization efforts. Brent also talked about call center deflection and cost savings, right? You can do cost savings by call center deflection by showing recommendations on content or services, support needs in customer service section. So think about that as well. And we should be reporting on that, not just the lift, but also the cost and time savings. So we talked about machine learning. We will go into more depth on this in the next webinar. We want to get into organizational readiness fast, but it's much more than just if this, then that collaborative filtering. We've got content similarity that pre-processes the feed that's coming in and compares and contrasts products or content that should be shown with other similar products or content. So it doesn't take the learning time to get new content, new products out there and shown alongside other products or content. User profile, as we said. You can also bring in your own algorithm. You can do your own custom key and bring that in. We'll go into more on that, but wanted to show you the examples of these are algorithm templates with all of these logics. You can put in filtering. You can put in exclusions. You can get very granular, as that example shows you on the right there, based on business rules. Is there a specific threshold? Is there an inventory threshold? Is there things that are inappropriate that should be excluded? And then these are reusable algorithms across your experience, ones that you find that resonate. One quick personalization, we talked about it ingesting or taking advantage of all of the profile data of each individual, scoring over time. It rebuilds every 6 hours. So it is left on. We think about it as always on personalization, right? And it shows you all of those attributes, all those segments that it's evaluated, and what is most predictive. It also does segment discovery. It will combine attributes and show you segments you may not have thought of. And as I mentioned, you can customize this with block listing to say, don't evaluate this data, just focus on this data. And that's at a per activity level basis. So don't forget that, dive into that. You have control of AI, it doesn't have control over you, and it helps you be more efficient and dynamic at scale. Handing it off to Brent for organizational readiness at scale.
Thanks, Drew. One more call out too on the recommendations, and we will get into this in the second webinar series session. I had a few customers reach out recently and talk about the ways that recommendations, and we had a few summit sessions as well this past year, but the ability to test recommendations algorithms against each other, right? So I think Target's a powerful tool in the market. The fact that you can embed a recommendations algorithm within a test to better understand where those recommendations on the page matter most, and in those conversions or revenue success metrics, and how they difference between the ways that you can build out your recommendations portfolio or carousel, where they look on mobile app as well as web. So it's a really dominant feature and capability of Adobe Target. So getting into organizational readiness to scale performance, closing out here with a few points about challenges what we're seeing within adoption and outside of technology, right? So the top barriers for technology adoption, e-consultancy study really looked at lack of skills, lack of people. You think about the number of lean teams that might be driving the use of Adobe Target within your brand, right? Most of the times it might start as one or two people and grow out from that, prove its value, understand, alignment to the executive teams. And then you start to see momentum, whether it be resources or additional budgets open up. But I think this, really hits on the fact that the alignment that you have in the more of the resources and ways that you're building out your personalization or growth experimentation teams is really key. Adobe's seeing a lot of the trends right now where you might in the past just have had a optimization, more of a conversion rate optimization or CRO team focused on experimentation. Now it's branching out. You'll have a IT engineering team under Martech. You'll have a product management or product manager position that's on a growth experimentation team to drive adoption or revenue or conversion within the product itself for more of a product-led growth initiative. There's a lot of teams, convergence of organizations coming together, and the technology is catching up to that. That's where Adobe's suite on the DX side is building for the future. But the core aspect of that goes back to how you can best practice this, right? So we mentioned the top three pillars when it comes to data, content, journey orchestration, and success from these investments. You'll see here in terms of integrating all the relevant data into those profiles that update in real time. We talked about AI-driven insights and experiences across every channel. A lot of the understanding your customer in context at each stage, employing non-technical users, this overlap of different teams. How are your marketing and product teams aligned to some of the analytics reports that you might be seeing with Target Test? Business user-friendly visualizations is a key aspect of how you're collaborating across your different teams when it comes to what's working and what's not. Drew mentioned a lot of the performance that we've had in seeing from these use cases. Aligning those across these best practices is very important. Content, again, creating once and reusing often in terms of modules. A lot of the Gen AI focus that we have at Adobe right now for content creation, it's opening up a new dynamic of what you can think about when it comes to personalization on just content, messaging, text, messaging controls around some of those customer journey aspects, creating high-performing headless experiences. So we're seeing a lot more modern architectures in terms of headless and API-driven personalization activities at scale, especially. So really understand the microservices aspect of API delivery and some of the server-side tests with Target, enabling efficient collaboration across your marketing creative teams. And then when it comes to journeys and intelligence, a lot of the rules-based or manual decisioning is now being drawn to a decisioning engine and the intelligence that you have within some of these journey context and behaviors that you are seeing across optimization, across personalization, and as far as the business outcomes we're seeing a lot of brands that are investing in centralizing the offers, understanding how Target can be integrated into other applications, and really driving this outbound and inbound context to journeys. So you'll as a core theme this year, you'll start to see Target kind of being integrated into more of a journey context, and how these optimization points that Target's bringing in to those overall orchestration or Canvas journeys are impacting some of those business metrics, bringing together teams and driving more efficiencies, even from a center of excellence build out that we're seeing a lot of Adobe customers have questions with. When we think about the key steps to growing your personalization program, this was actually a model taken from one of our top customers. They went from like the top 26th percentile to the top 1 percentile within their industry. They led and executed a really innovative scale out to their program using Target, and accelerated across channels, started to build out mobile and authenticated sites, start to leverage a lot of their product teams. It was a really great example. So just following this model and giving some context to it, the phase one was really about audiences, where they can start to think about their segmentation. How are they getting the integrations potentially from a CDP into Target in terms of the ways that you can bring in data to Target, whether it be profile scripts, profile parameters, using a lot of those sources to understand which audience to take impact to and when. They were an A/B testing experimentation shop, and then they drove those insights into their personalization reports. Target offers personalization insights reports. So when you think about the ways that you are understanding which profile parameter might be impacting the test most significantly, or an automated segment. So a good example around the holiday would be if someone was purchasing some high value assets or products or services, Target can recognize those behaviors, those trends, and recommend a different segment that you might have not noticed when you're building out your plans for the test initially. So a lot of these important attributes, automating segments, reports, they took advantage of those to start to scale out and develop new ideas where they can drive segmentation. Then the phase two was really about activation, taking impact across their digital channels. I think there was a question in the chat about SEO impact, and we're getting some answers to those chats as we finalize and wrap up here. But it's a really good question. And how do you understand those testing parameters and making sure that every optimization score or even a Google SEO score aligns to those digital channels? Condensing homepage, multiple stories on terms of placement and connecting with different visitors. They ran AI-powered personalization and grew into some of these aspects around content and product recommendations, and then they refined those monetization strategies. They drove a new feature in their mobile apps. This was an FSI customer around mobile deposits that drew a lot of incremental lift and opened up a whole new segment that they could target for different services. So the ways that they were building out their journey with Target was really aligned to this overall conversion revenue end goal, and those KPIs that they set up initially to then draw back into which audiences and targeted experiences were working on different channels. Lead management in terms of where an optimization team can sit, right? So we have a lot of customers looking at terms of key responsibilities, looking at the ways that you can really start to think about cross-functional aspects of the team with optimization. One key theme that we are leaning into this year is opening up the non-technical and technical users to be able to drive impact with Target to their personalization program. The native dev team or mobile app teams. These are teams that are using, for the most part, marketing and content teams might not even be aware of some of the product management organization or mobile app developers within the organization, but they need to be, and they should be in terms of how they're driving experimentation optimization across those channels. The previous example of the personalization steps to grow, one of their aspects, they wanted to do feature flagging with Target, and they wanted to update their mobile app on their own terms when the marketing teams were ready for the launch. They were converting from a campaign to customer journey context. So a lot of their campaign and content teams had their timelines around different events. And when they wanted to launch, they wanted to kind of decouple and discover how they could drive more impact across those insights that they were driving from testing into those marketing communications and brand communication teams. So the way that they worked with the mobile engineering developer teams was a huge impact to the ways that they built out their center of excellence. Operations, value streams, journey teams. Again, a lot of the questions that we're starting to see around testing optimization being brought into more of the growth marketer or lifecycle marketer teams that are looking at a holistic view. Now that you have a centralized view of this customer profile, you have all this data. Where are you centralized in terms of operations on these teams to drive those different changes in real time, right? Based off of moment-to-moment interaction, how are those interactions to individual consumers driving the governance and best practices on how you set up? This is absolutely one example of really a centralized, a target center of excellence that's being built out to multiple different teams. And it's all driven from a rich history with the optimization and experimentation teams as a foundation. And I think that's really strong in terms of what we're seeing in terms of excellence being built out, sharing more lessons on this through different aspects of those teams and how you can empower others in the organization around driving different decisions to these tests, right? Execution in terms of optimization and strategy. This is a really a baseline and a really good kind of flywheel example here that we walk into for our strategic engagements, setting up a organization or a customer to understand what are their steps driving some target activities with the broader teams. So in terms of strategizing, really understand those opportunities for activities. The use cases that we just went through are really good examples of how you might be thinking about your business objectives aligned to these target activities. Prioritizing and ranking some of these potential impacts, the level of effort that you might see in terms of deploying an auto target activity might be built off of an A/B test and really automating this always on perspective. So the prioritization that you can have based off the activities is key in terms of how you're trying to drive for your conversion or revenue metrics. Design, huge opportunity for mobile, especially when you think about the UX behind in experience, right? And building off of that in terms of your analysis and your reports. So this is a really good example in optimization framework, if you will, to think about how you're building out these teams, as well as communication and governance across organizations. We see the leads of personalization leaders within Adobe's customer base really walking through a plan by plan and detailed plan on weekly stakeholder syncs. They have monthly innovation meetings internally. Even at Adobe, we do monthly best test or sharing your best optimization test or personalization activity. Broadening in awareness across teams and evangelizing that internally across communications is huge. And the governance that you have in terms of enterprise capabilities with Target to build out in terms of teams and recognize which global team is running which tests and how you can draw those optimization metrics into your analytics reports gives a baseline in terms of what you can take into these meetings for progression. So
and just really fast on that too, think about it like an assembly line. That process is iterative. Great, Brent, talking about having those meetings across your organization, getting ideas in, but then also thinking about what can be run quickly with low effort while you're building out these functional activities that might take a developer and some other resources to get up and running. And so you can think about it as multiple activities running through an assembly line. And as we're getting those insights from the results, that will feed, as Brent was saying, the roadmap. So the roadmap should be seen as this constantly changing thing that you're reprioritizing based on impact and insights that come out of your activities. Fantastic. So governance just as important as the use cases and the capabilities that we covered today, and much more coming in our upcoming webinars as well. I know we've got Q&A.
We'll final wrap up with a few Q&A questions Drew, I saw a few in the chat, and we can get to the Q&A here afterwards as well.
Yeah, so a couple that I haven't had a chance to answer. So I got a question about learning webinars. There are Learning Great Academy webinars. Kate, we will make sure that we send those out as a follow-up. So resources that you can go to now, best resources for best practices. We've got a chef's collection of use cases, for example, to cover the art of the possible section. We've got a set of links that we will send out for you to access different content, and also Academy, learning classes based on automation. We again are going to be covering automated personalization, auto target in the third webinar in March, but we'll have stuff that you can look at now. Beryl, we've got a flexible open implementation with Target. So this is really valuable. It is a key differentiator for Target. We can go client side with a visual experience composer. A non-technical user can make changes, subtle changes like text changes, but more advanced, design changes to a site, form-based composer for apps. But you can go client side or server side in testing and personalization. So with your activities, and they can go side by side. So there might be some areas, especially if you're dealing with functionality, server side can sometimes be the best approach or the optimal approach for handling those types of activities. If we're doing, more marketing, content related testing or personalization, client side might be the way to go because it has an experience there with the visual experience composer and 3-step workflow. And so you can go client side, server side, different areas of the experience across web and mobile, all within the same instance. And then on-device decisioning is another option, very powerful for feature flagging with near latency-free performance. So instantaneous performance, it allows you to toggle between two different experiences. Once one is, improving over the other, push the traffic to the winner to doing more traditional feature flagging there. So a good mix, hybrid, Beryl. Most customers that we see have a hybrid approach, client side and server side.
Yeah, this was good. Thanks, Drew, for answering some of the questions in chat. Yeah, so Emily, if we want to go back, and this is great, took a capture for the activities being used to the Q&A to wrap up. For those that have joined today, thank you very much. If you're able to run over, it looked like we have one or two questions that we're going to address here that came through as well. When is it optimal to use automated personalization versus auto target? A good question, Drew. I know you have years of experience here too. One of the aspects that I see customers ask a lot is they will use an A/B test or experimentation to align on different offers to make sure that the placements that they want to look at an auto target activity or an always on activity get the baseline first from using some A/B testing, seeing the lift, seeing the confidence on those differences between offers or content experiments before running straight to an auto target test. Automated personalization, one of the aspects, best practices in terms of the differences here too would be traffic allocation. Drew, I think you are an advocate for.
Yeah, rank ordered. Yeah, I mean, so automated personalization, think about it when you want to cycle in different content sort of midstream in an activity. So large financial institution in the United States uses it on their homepage to rank the order of banners that are shown. There's an automotive company that's using it on their product page. It will bring up or rank recommendations or rather reviews or over specifications. And so whenever there's any rank ordered experience that you want to create, another technology company using it for different containers on their page based on an individual's preferences. Maybe they want to look at content versus an actual product. Any rank order design, navigation, etc., automated personalization is the way to go. Also, that activity type, and we'll go into this in the third webinar, you can cycle in different experiences over time. Obviously, best practice is to mark when you're making that change. So in the results, you can see the impact. but it will reformulate, reevaluate, and rebuild based on that new experience. So you can also see the impact of adding in experiences and even look at seasonality over time. Auto target is better for a couple of different locations or full page, and it will cycle in combinations. Think of it as an automated multivariate, if you will, combinations that are just right based on an individual's profile. Again, either the entire profile by default or whatever attributes you want to constrain it to using block listing.
That's great. Thanks, Drew. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Wanted to last call out here on the slide, just mention Experience League for those that are part of the community. We have an upcoming coffee break, which we'll link to in terms of follow-up. So if you're staying engaged with our product teams and the target coffee breaks, we have more webinars, as we mentioned, coming up. And then, of course, Summit is right around the corner. A lot of great customers that will be presenting this year. So register for Summit. We'll see you there in person. And thank you, everyone, today for attending the webinar. We really appreciate the attendance, and we'll see you in the second session.
Well, thank you, Drew and Brent, for today's excellent webinar. This does conclude today's session, and to all of you in the audience, we appreciate your participation, and we thank you for your thoughtful time and attention. Take care, everyone.